the Raider Nation? It's your boy Dub Raider. Here with me today, as always, is my co-host, my brother, the man that not even the Wu-Tang Clan fucks with,
Okay.
Chris from Protect the Shield. What's up, my brother? How you doing?
What's up, man? How's it going, man? Just having a beautiful, glorious day as usual, man, and ready to talk this ball with my boy, man. How are you?
Good, man. Good. You know, just a little weary about what's going on over here in LA, but you know,
Yeah.
let me tell you, it's not as bad as they portray it to
The
be.
media try to, yeah, for sure.
You know, if you're hood, it's an average day.
Yeah.
It's an
You know,
average day.
yeah, because the media, man, they make it seem like it's real wild down there, like it's a war zone. But you know, a lot of people that's down there, you know, Severe and a lot of other people, man, they kind of said it's not what it is. I mean, of course there's some, you know, some stuff, but you know, the way that the media is making it sound like it's Vietnam out there. So
nah, man, not even close to the LA riots. Not even like an of LA riots. This is just, you know, downtown federal buildings. That's about it, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, there is a lot of ICE activity, a lot of military activity, but you know, everything is cool. Everything is, it's not as bad as the news media portrays it to be. But anyway, our deal is the Raiders and the Raider Nation.
Facts.
So let's talk about it. Raider Nation this week. Unfortunately, we don't have any football 101, but we do have Chris's weekly word news from the Raiders, the Raider organization this past week. The topics we're going to be covering is obviously the pickup of our new linebacker, GERMAINE Pratt. And it's funny because prior to us picking him up, I had another topic which I was going to ask Chris, which way we were going to go with the linebacker position.
Yeah.
Because obviously we had that need. Were we going to pick up a free agent, or we're going to develop from the players that we have? So that's another topic we're going to get into. Obviously, we're going to talk about the mandatory minicamp, you know, that happened June 10th to the 12th. And more than anything, the interviews of the media day with Coach Carroll and Geno Smith. And last but not least, a question: if we would pick DB, would it be Jalen Ramsey or Jair Alexander? Because they are both out there ready for the picking. You know, we're going to talk about that probable pick by our team. And other than that, you know, that's what we got for you. So Chris, let's start off with, again, Chris's weekly word. First topic, the signing of GERMAINE Pratt. What are your thoughts on him, man?
Yeah, so it's funny. Before we even signed him, salute to my brothers at the War Room, but we actually did a film breakdown on him, so I'm not even sure if you had a chance to see him. So it was like a day or two before we even signed him. We broke down a lot of his film from last year, you know, show some good, the bad, the ugly of him. One thing about him, he definitely brings, you know, like a veteran leadership. He was a captain, led the team in definitely led the team in tackles, but he was like a top 10 tackler in all of NFL. The last 2 seasons, he's really been rocking it. So he gets to the football. He played on a defense that was not good, you know. So he was kind of the one, you know. Well, I won't say the one star because Hendricks was a star as well, but you know, he was one of the few people that are out there kind of rocking. And he's a guy he's what we need. You know, he's a short tackler. He swarms to the ball. He can diagnose plays pretty well. He does have some characteristics that are kind of you know, things we'll have to kind of watch. You know, he can get a little bit lazy sometimes.
Okay.
And stuff like that is, you know, it could be just a mentality thing. Like when no one else is around you is doing their job, you know, it happens. But I think when you get around people like maxxcrosby and stuff like that, that laziness goes out the window because you got other dogs with that relentless motor around you. You know, I think he's for sure helped upgrade our linebacker room. You know, we got a guy that's, you know, played in the Super Bowl, a guy that's played in big games, a guy that stays healthy. So I'm excited.
That's the important one right there.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm excited to see, you know, what he can bring to the table. You know, he brings some versatility. You know, he can play inside or outside. You know, like I say, he's a tough guy overall. You know, he's kind of tough. But yeah, if you guys didn't see, you know, kind of the film breakdown we did on him, you know, definitely check it out. We definitely go into his strengths and weaknesses, man.
Great, man. Yeah, because like I was mentioning earlier, the only thing I knew about Pratt was that he intercepted us.
Yeah.
And caused a lot of pain in the Raider Nation.
Yeah.
You know, but other than that, you did know. And unfortunately, I didn't catch that episode when you guys broke the film down. But you know what? That goes to show how much knowledge you guys have to where you are already talking about potential players that we're going to pick up.
Yeah.
So, there's definitely a lot of knowledge in that war room for sure.
Yeah.
So out of 1 to 10, what do you consider this pickup? Is this like a really good pickup? Is this a wait and see type situation, or is this kind of like just a filler? What are your thoughts?
I'll give it like a 7, just because it's a position of need. Now I'm not going to say he's the next Ray Lewis, anything like that, but he's a guy that has production. He's a guy that, again, he stays healthy. He's going to bring an upgrade, and plus I think he's a good vet because we got a lot of youth there as well.
Right.
We got the Amari Gainers and what's the name, Eichenberg and Cody Lindenberg. So we got a lot of young guys. So it's good to see another veteran. I mean, honestly, we got 3 solid veterans in him, Landon Roberts and Devin White. All 3 of them have been captains. In fact, I think all 3 of them has actually played in the Super Bowl. So just getting some knowledge like that in that linebacker room is going to go a long way and bring a lot of competition. So yeah, I'll give it a solid 7.
Okay. So do you believe he'll be, based on his past, obviously, because there's still some more training camp happening and preseason games for us to be able to see him perform, but based on his past, do you think he's going to be our starter?
Yeah. I think he will. I'm sure the conversation that he had, because, he just got released, the other day from the Bengals. So right. I think when he came in for his visits and, I'm sure those questions came up, kind of what his role would be. I'm pretty sure that was, one of the main reasons he probably picked us was, that opportunity to start and be a leader. Yeah, I definitely think, he'll definitely start for us for sure.
So based on this pickup, do you think we're solid at the linebacker position, or do we still need more depth?
I think we're solid. I think we're solid because this allows us to let some of those younger guys continue to develop and not just thrown out there. Right. I think what's his name, Eichenberg. He's not ready yet. Tommy's not ready yet. So it gives him a chance to still kind of learn the system, kind of learn what you got to do. With the rookie Lindenberg, again, gives him an opportunity. And I think Amari Gainer, he's the one that I'm most excited about. But I think it'll give him another veteran to kind of watch, and then there'll be a rotation. So all of them will kind of get in and play, but it's not just throwing the guy out there to the wolves. Going out there trying to play against a Patrick Mahomes, and maybe possibly losing some confidence and morale and stuff like that. So you got some good veterans to lean on. I think we're okay.
And I think this will be a good learning experience for the Rooks as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Because now they have proven veterans.
Yeah, got guys who've done it and guys who've done it at the highest level. Like I said, now you got 3 guys who've been in the Super Bowl. Who've been in the Super Bowl. 2 of them have won the Super Bowl. So that's big.
So that's great.
Yeah.
So Jermaine Pratt, welcome to the Raider Nation.
Welcome to the Raider Nation, man.
Do a lot of good things for us. You have big shoes to fill. We had a pretty good linebacker last year, which we're going to see week 1.
Week 1, yeah.
Come of the regular season.
Yeah.
So, let's see what you got, my brother.
Yeah.
But welcome and congratulations. So this particular signing brings us to our original topic, which was the linebacker position need. Basically, Chris just explained to us that, we're pretty solid at the linebacker position. But let's say if we didn't, based on the rookies and free agents that we picked up, do you see that based on who we have, it would have been better to develop them, or better to do what we did, which is pick up another free agent, like a starting linebacker?
I think it's probably good I think it was a good idea to bring another veteran, again, because, having a veteran in there, it at least provides that kind of like that foundation. Now, right. if the young pup wants to come in and out compete the veteran, then that's great, because that can continue to light a fire under the young guy. He knows how to do it, but it also will light a fire under the veteran too. Like, hey, yeah, I'm the vet, but this young kid is, he's working hard and he's coming to take my spot. So It's all about the name of competition.
Yes.
I think the young guys will have an opportunity to prove themselves. We'll see how training camp goes. We'll see how preseason goes. We'll see how that joint practice goes. So, they're going to be evaluated, a lot over the next couple months. So they'll have their opportunity. So if they're the better player, they have an opportunity. But if by chance it doesn't work out for the young players right away, it's going to take them a little bit more time to develop. We got a solid foundation with the veterans, again, who've done it before, who we can put out there on the field and compete at a fairly high level.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think bringing in, you could say, more teachers, more individuals, like we mentioned earlier, that have already played the game at a high level to teach these kids how to do it and how to do it right. I think it's the best thing that we could have done. Unfortunately, I didn't have much knowledge as far as who we could have gotten. Thankfully, you guys actually did break it down, and I'm actually going to go back and watch that.
Yeah.
Because again, I didn't know much about him other than, that beautiful interception that, broke our hearts. But other than that, I was kind of scared going in to the season with,
with what we had.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Because it was all it was going to take was one injury.
Yeah.
To debacle the whole linebacking core.
Yeah.
Because then you were going to put in players that weren't ready or probably aren't going to be ready.
Right.
And it was just going to cause turmoil. And then that would probably, trickle down to other positions.
Right.
And that's something that we don't need at the moment with
right.
our team. Right now, everything's looking good. On paper, everybody's happy. Still somewhat skeptical, but it's looking good.
Yeah.
It's trending in the right direction. So by doing so, I think we've done a great service for our team, for our fandom, all around.
Yep.
Let me see. Okay, so leaving the linebacker position, let's talk about the mandatory minicamp, which happened June 10th through the 12th. First of all, explain to us the difference between the OTAs and the mandatory minicamp, Chris.
Yeah, so the mandatory camp, that's when, the guys have to be there, so, now you're talking, if the team wants to be a little petty, they can start fining players and stuff like that for not showing up. OTAs is all optional. You don't have to be there. Again, even in minicamp, you're not doing, full contact. You're not doing the fat pads and all that stuff. But, in the minicamp, that's when you're really starting to kind of get deeper into the installs of the offense and the defense and things like that. So, yeah, it's one of those things where all players are pretty much expected to be there.
Now, as far as their training or their practice, is there anything different between the OTAs and the minicamp? Or do they run the same drills? Do they do the same type of or similar practice?
Actually, I think a lot of the OTAs, the coaches can't really be, super involved. Whereas, the coaches can be more involved with the minicamp and stuff. Okay. So I think they still can't do a lot of, there's still a lot of limits. There's still a lot of limits on both, but I know that they can do more organized stuff, for minicamp.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. One thing I did see from a lot of the reels that the Raiders put out is they were having a blast, right?
Oh, they were having fun, man. They were having fun.
Dancing and playing around. And even they had one of those big bubble boy balls. And one of the coaches was freaking rolling around it, man. It seemed like it was the last day of school. Yeah. And they were just having a blast.
They were.
I think, obviously, practice, learning the plays, all that is really important. But gelling as a team, I think, is also a pivotal item that needs to be created within the players. Mm-hmm. They need to know that they can trust each other, that they're going to be there for each other, that they're going to be solidified as a team. Yeah. Prior to even the first snap of the regular season. Yeah. So I think these little interactions together are really, really great. I also heard Gino mention that he's been hanging with his wide receivers, with his offensive line. Yeah. Yeah. So, that's pretty dope. They're actually becoming familiar. They're becoming a team. And, that again, that gets me excited. Not too much, but it's at least, like I said, a step in the right direction for our team. So did you hear anything else about minicamp? Any good notes, bad notes, and anything else that you saw?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing is I'm hearing that some of our rookies are really looking good. But again, it's hard to really evaluate because, again, no pads and stuff like that. But I think as far as grasping things, kind of understanding the different installs and things like that, because honestly, that's a lot of what the coaches are looking for, especially in the young guys. And actually not only the young guys, because we have new coaches, everyone is kind of learning at the same time, because it's, new offensive coordinator. And even on the defensive side, it sounds like Patrick Graham is installing some new things as well. So, the coaches want to see, how can you retain information? How can you, retain it and apply what you just learned to the field? So that's, and it seems like a lot of the young guys are adapting well. Specifically, they're saying that Dante Thornton's looking real good, the big receiver. Arian Porter, the big cornerback, is looking good. He's been getting a lot of first team reps, which is pretty great to hear. And I would probably say on the bad end, still don't know exactly what's going on with Christian Wilkins. He was one of the few that wasn't out there practicing. But again, I think it's more of a precautionary thing. I'm hoping it's not going to kind of linger on. I'd rather them just kind of be very cautious with him, because we need him for sure. He's going to be, a big piece of that defense. So,
and if he can't be there physically, he could at least help, the D-line, help give advice, support,
he's still in the building, though. He's still in the building, yep.
Which is definitely very important.
Yep.
Because when you know that one of your stars is not going to start, and you're going to have to take his position, those are big shoes to fill.
Oh, absolutely.
And having him in your corner, I think, is definitely going to motivate, our defensive line, defensive tackles, So, all right, man. So that was mandatory minicamp. Now, just like most kids, they're on summer vacation for, what is it, like I think a month and a half, right?
Yeah, I think it was July 20th or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So, it's here comes the real cold spell of content creating. But we're definitely going to have news for you guys. If not Raider news, we're definitely going to have Football 101, and we're talking about other things that we're going to incorporate. But until then, we still have a little bit more to talk about. Outside of having the mandatory minicamp, there was also the Raiders Media Day. It was the day where they take all the pictures and do all the stuff for the graphics, and they did some interviews with coaches, with players, and I personally got a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of positive motivation from the interview done with Coach Pete Carroll and Geno Smith. First of all, Chris, talk to me about what you thought of Pete Carroll's interview.
I enjoyed it, man. Like one thing about Pete, he's a breath of fresh air. Like, he's such a likable guy. And again, I think AP was too, because honestly, I loved AP. I love what AP brought to the table, especially and I'm sure you did too, you being from LA, he's so LA and, so Raider. But Pete brings like a different type of vibe where it's like, it's a guy that who's been here before, who's seen it before, a guy that has a plan. He's just such like his people skills, man. It's like it's like you automatically gravitate to him. Like if you didn't like Pete before, it's like you not liking your grandpa. And I know that sounds crazy because he is an older guy, but it's like, how can you not like Pete? Like, if you don't like Pete Carroll, there's something wrong with you. You know what I'm saying? So, and you can tell Pete cares about his players. He cares about ball. Like, Pete probably don't have no other hobbies. It's just football. Yeah. He loves football, just loves sports, loves competition, and it comes out just naturally in him. He's not faking the funk. He's not acting, the way that he isn't. Like the way you see Pete at 7 a.m. is the same way you're going to see him at 7 p.m. Like, Pete is Pete. So full of energy. He loves ball. He loves his players. And Pete has a plan, most importantly. And that's what I like.
Yeah, no, I agree. As soon as he sat down and he started talking, man, he had me just completely focused on what he was saying.
He does.
His level of energy is very contagious.
Yeah, it is.
If it's all bullshit, he definitely knows how to sell it.
He
definitely knows how to sell it, because he had me going. Everything he was saying, how he was interacting with the coaches, interacting with the players, and the thought processes, even in the draft and everything. And I was like, man, for all the people that just kind of like gave up on him because of his age, that man does not show it. You know,
yeah.
he is just a ball of energy and just so motivated and enthusiastic.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's actually carrying through the organization.
Yeah.
You know, because having an individual that, you know, has won a Super Bowl, has won a football national championship, you know, has coached great teams.
Yeah.
You know, and now we have that opportunity with him. Yeah, he might not be as young as he was back then, but his brain is still the same.
Yeah, his mind is sharp. His mind is sharp.
He still has that knowledge, and he's gonna teach our players and try and mold our players to become better than what they were.
Yeah.
So to me, that really excited me, and I really can't wait till the season begins. Even training camp, just to see what he puts our players through.
Yeah.
You know how he's gonna get them motivated, and how he's gonna get them ready for you know, actual ball come August.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the thing is, he's so legendary that, I mean, I'm not sure if you had a chance even to listen to the interview of Patrick Graham. Well, Patrick Graham was even talking about him because, you know, Patrick Graham is a defensive mind, a great defensive mind, and he's been around great defensive minds. Like, he was around, you know, Marvin Lewis last year. So, you know, he's been around, you know, some of the best coaches in the game, but, you know, even he get kind of giddy almost, like, around Pete Carroll. Like, I won't say giddy because that sounds a little weird, but, you know, but he's a guy that you could tell that he's soaking in the information, you know, like he's taking in the knowledge that Pete has, because Pete's you know, he's a defensive minded guy. You know, Pete's been around some of the best defenses, you know, that we've seen. So, you know, if you get a guy like Patrick Graham really respecting you, you know, that's a good thing. So
yeah, man. And then having those two minds together,
exactly.
You know, I think there's nothing but good things happening.
Exactly. With
our defense, bringing them together, and then obviously, you know, Chip Kelly on the other side.
Yeah.
You know, and his offensive staff. You know, our players. Everybody looked very, very happy, very enthusiastic. Because I was even watching the rush with maxxcrosby, and he was also talking good things. You know, and that excites me, man. You know, it makes me feel positive coming into next season, even though, you know, the expectation still isn't very high.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Yeah.
It isn't very high, you know. Realistically, 8 wins.
Yeah. That's a success.
As a Raider fan, I'm looking for 10, 11, but, you know, definitely, you know.
Yeah.
So I definitely saw that from Pete Carroll. I definitely felt that from his interview. You know, so let's just hope for the best. Yeah, for sure. Now, soon after, you know, he kind of like tag team with Geno Smith. Geno came in, started his interview. Yeah. And he also, I was like, wow, you know, because he's talking about that he feels young. He feels he could play for another 10 years. And I'm like, okay, you know, it might not be true, but if he feels it, then you know what? Let's run with it. Yeah. Let's run with it. What did you think about his interview?
Yeah, no, same thing. Because thing with Geno, yeah, he's an older guy, but he's playing some of the best ball of his career. So it's like, you know, while others kind of start, you know, declining, you know, as they get older, he's at the point where he's still playing good ball, you know, because early on in his career, you know, he struggled and guys, you know, lost faith in him. So, you know, instead of giving up, you know, what did he do? He just fought back, clawed back, and now he's like kind of playing some of his best ball. I think his best season was maybe a year or two ago, but I mean, he's still playing at a high level. You know, he's throwing for a lot of yards. He's you know, playing good ball. So, and one thing that you could tell is Pete cares for him and he cares for Pete. You could tell that is a, you know, relationship that they have. You know, they really care for each other. They really respect each other. And again, like when we first announced that we got Geno Smith, you know, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say I was, you know, jumping for joy and doing cartwheels. And I'm sure you would never want to see me do a cartwheel because it's not a pretty sight. But you know, it's just one of those things where you trust. And again, I know Raider fans we're tired of hearing trust the process, but it's like you hear guys that you respect talk so highly of Geno. All you can do is be like, hey, you know, they know more ball than me. You know, Pete has forgotten more football than I've ever learned. And, you know, someone like maxxcrosby, you know, is a, you know, one of the hardest working men that's ever played the game. So it's like when they vouch for someone, even if you don't necessarily agree, you gotta respect it, man. And it gotta hold some weight. So,
sure.
You know, I'm slowly.
then their history, bro.
Exactly.
They were together how many years at Seattle? 2 years, right?
2 or 3, maybe. Yeah.
2 or 3 years. Yeah. So there's already some history there.
Exactly. Exactly.
They already been through the good and the bad.
Exactly.
So now they know what to expect from each other.
Exactly. And Geno made them competitive when a lot of people was ready to write off the Seahawks. A lot of people were, hey, Russell Wilson's gone. I can't believe they traded Russ. And what are they going to do at quarterback now? All they got is Geno Smith. And Geno stepped up to the call of duty, man.
He did. So I definitely, I'm hoping, based on these interviews and these interactions, that we will definitely going to see something good, at least something competitive. I don't want to say playoff bound, I don't want to say Super Bowl bound, but definitely something better than what we had last year. Unfortunately the experiment didn't work, and a lot of us were sad, but it is football, and we have to forget the past a little and just move forward, and just start focusing on what we have now and what we're going to build from this point on. And anything else from the media day that called out to you, or that you thought was cool or amazing, or not so much?
Yeah, no, I liked a lot of stuff that I saw. Again, I'm just like you. It's it was a lot of excitement. A lot of just pure enthusiasm. Guys were happy to be there. And again, you can't take too much of this time of year, because last year guys were happy, guys were excited. So, it just comes with the territory. But it just seems.
But I think a lot of that, Chris, came from when Antonio Pierce took over at the end of the season. Yeah. And we were coming in.
Yeah, we were still on that high
motivation. We were like, yes, we got him, and now he's going to be our coach. And there was that excitement from there.
Yeah. Yep.
This season we came out on a low, because we lost 10 games in a row, and then towards the end, we needed to start losing more. We ended up winning, so it was kind of like, it just threw everything. It just made everything bad. Yeah. Towards the end, so that's why I think this year coming into the season was kind of like, oh man, Pete Carroll, oh man, Geno Smith, but you know what? Whatever they're doing, man, whatever magic spell that they're putting on the organization and on the Raider Nation, it's working, man.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's looking good. Let's just hope that actually translates to wins and positive play on the field for us.
Yeah.
All right. So that concludes the Raiders Media Day. Now for our last topic of Chris's Weekly Word, there are two, I believe they're both cornerbacks, if I'm not mistaken, Jalen Ramsey and Jair Alexander. There is a possibility that we might be able to pick one of these players up for our team. What are your thoughts, Chris, on both of these players, first of all, as individuals, and then how do you see them fit with our organization, and who would you pick?
So me personally, I like both guys, and they both have played at a very high level. I mean, Jair Alexander, he is for one, he's a free agent. He's available, so you wouldn't have to give up any draft comp for him. But I really like Jalen Ramsey just because I like the flexibility he can give. Jalen, coming out of college, he was a guy that could play for safety or corner. So he's a guy that he's getting a little older. He may have lost a step or two, but he can still be a very high quality corner right now. And he's a guy that we could possibly flip over to safety if need be, kind of like what Charles Woodson did or what Rod Woodson did back in the day, and still have some very, very good years at the safety position. And you can't do that with everybody. Like, everybody's not able to make that transition. So if I had to choose between them, I would say Jalen, but I think Alexander, of course, he would be cheaper and wouldn't have to give up any kind of draft comp. So it kind of just depends on how you feel, but they both are good players. But me personally, I would say Jalen.
Now, being that they're both high tier football players, one of them definitely is going to come with a lot more expense than the other. And understandably so, but based on their experience, their talent, taking away the money aspect, obviously you still do Jalen Ramsey, correct? You would still pick him? Taking the money aspect. But
now, I think.
But how many years will Jalen, do you think, can potentially give us in comparison to Alexander? Or are they equal?
Well, I mean, I think that, because of course, Alexander's, I think he's a little younger. He might be, 3 years younger. So
right.
But the thing with him, when you're talking about Alexander, he's a guy with some injury concerns. He's definitely a little bit smaller. I think he's about 5'10", whereas, Ramsey's a taller guy. So he's just bigger guy. But like I said, I think with Jalen's, with his skill set, we could potentially move him back to safety.
Safety, right.
And have him for a couple more years, and again, like I said, you get guys like a Rod Woodson and a Charles Woodson, they were able to really prolong their career by making that move. And I think that Jalen is a student of the game like that. He has that swagger, and I think that he could make that move. Whereas, Alexander probably can't, Alexander might be an injury away from, being done for good. So,
Gotcha. No, yeah, that definitely makes sense. And that's why he's worth the money, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
And, because I've been hearing that there's been some speculation about Jalen going back to the Rams. Have you heard anything about that?
I could see it. I know that Sean McVay he's very he liked Jalen, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So he was a guy that, they won the Super Bowl together. He respects him. He always spoke highly of him and considers him a leader. And honestly, I like what the Rams have done. Rams, to me, are going to be a problem. Like, to me, the Rams are going to give the Eagles a run for their money for, who's going to come out of that NFC. So, if I'm Jalen and I want to go, be in a situation where I can potentially get back to a Super Bowl, I wouldn't mind trying to get to the Rams if I was him. So, it's definitely possible.
And then there's also history there.
Yeah, exactly. With history there, coach, and you won a ring there. And you got a coach. This is not a new coach. This is one of the most respected coaches in the NFL. So it makes sense on both ends. But me being selfish, I like him. I like to see him in the silver and black.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't mind either of them. Obviously, I'm a little bit more stingy.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more of the dollars and cents. And Jair Alexander definitely would fit our need right now. Yeah. Being that we are not a playoff team yet, we are not a Super Bowl contender yet.
Yeah.
So I think he'd fit our need right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jalen, he is more of a playoff Super Bowl caliber player.
Yeah.
To where we would probably not see any of that in a year or two. So I don't know if he would probably be the right individual for our team right now. As good as he is, obviously, he's an amazing talent. But
what I will say, if and again, you can't play the if game, but if by chance we were able to get into the season and be healthy, where we got a true healthy Christian Wilkins, a true healthy Malcolm Kuntz, where he's ready to, he's fully over his injury and ready to, hit the ground running like he was going to last season. We could have something special. We really could, because, Max, that defensive front, that defensive line could be special. And all we really need, and then we got, like we talked earlier, we got 3 veteran linebackers who, you're not going to be tricking, guys have seen it before. And if you get some, a Jalen Ramsey back there playing at a high level, behind a defensive line that's getting after the quarterback, so the quarterback don't have time to go through a whole bunch of reads and they got to make a decision and make, force throws. It could, he could be a difference maker, whether it's at corner or safety. You get someone like Jalen Ramsey, because the thing with him, he has he has very, very good, a football mind, you know what I'm saying? So as far as just being a student of the game and stuff like that, you get someone like him back there playing center field, going to get the ball when it's in the air. He's one of the best that can do that. So, I know we're talking about an 8-win team and stuff like that, but if we can be healthy, and again, a big if, but if we can, someone like Jalen could potentially be that game changer where it's that may be a missing piece, and that might take things to the next level. So, again, I know we both said we're not going to drink the Raider Kool-Aid, but we're just saying.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I definitely hear you. You know, and I guess that's my pessimistic mind.
Yeah.
Thinking, you know, realistically, being that our history hasn't been one of being lucky at all.
No, you're right. You're right.
We aren't.
That's not a Raider thing.
Yes, it's not. So, you know, that's why my thoughts are of picking up Alexander more than Ramsey. You know, it's because of that. It's not because of what he can do. You know, because he could definitely do it. He's proven it time and time again. It's just, I think we are shortcomings for his abilities right now. And I think maybe like a team like the Rams would probably be a better suited for him.
Yeah.
Because they are more of
they're ready.
Potential.
Yeah, they're ready.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, so that's my only thing. But if he wants to come over here, because I know that's also a thing that he's always wanted to be a Raider.
Yeah.
You know, if you wanted to come through, then hey, we have the money and we're willing to drop a pick or two, then let's do it.
Let's do it.
You know,
I'm with
anything to make our team better, man.
I'm with
anything
you.
to make our team better. You know, is there any other DBs that you've heard of that can be potential pickups for the Raiders?
You know, none that you know really that I think will move the needle. You know, I know the Raiders did bring in Shaquille Griffin. He was a corner that, you know, that played with Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll actually drafted him in Seattle.
Him and his brother, right? Him and his brother.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, the one that
had the nub. Yeah.
Nub,
yeah. So, you know, I know his name's kind of been bounced around, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if we bring him in just because, you know, veteran presence, someone that kind of knows Pete's expectations and things like that. Somebody that's a leader.
And then depth never hurts, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially the way that, you know, we have that injury bug every year.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, you know, just a training camp, you know, body that can push some of the young guys. So keep your eye on him. So I would, you know, if not him, then, you know, I would like to see us kind of make a move on one of those other guys that kind of move that needle and get us.
Yeah, definitely, man. So other than the DB positions, do you see anything else that we should, any other position of need that we should go out to get at the moment, or is it still too soon to tell?
You know, honestly, you know, if I'm predicting an 8-win season, you know, our team can get better in all areas. You know, again, whether it's depth, but as far as like just a glaring need, still would like to see something, you know, in that interior line, you know, another guard or so. You know, I think a lot of the other positions I feel pretty comfortable. You know, again, got to keep my eye on the Christian Wilkins thing.
Right.
I'm hearing the young defensive tackles are doing pretty good, but there's no pads on, so we don't know.
Right.
So we'll see. But I think, you know, if you got an opportunity just to bring in a football player that can upgrade you at a certain position, and he's and the money is worth it, you know, like I would like to see us bring in Clowney, the defensive end. You know, like, you know, he has some experience with Pete as well. You know, someone that can help Max get, you know, some rest, you know, at least with a rotation. Because as much as we love Max, you know, I would love to see Max get, you know, a little bit of rest, you know, just like some of the other top guys. Like Myles Garrett comes out sometimes, you know, Bosa comes out sometimes. Like, it's okay to be a guy that can come out, you know, but the only way you can come out is if you got someone behind you that the team trusts, you know. So but
somebody needs to tell Max that.
Exactly. You know, and the thing is, and I want Max to be at the point where in the fourth quarter, you know, he's doing things that takes over the ball game, you know, kind of like what the Micah Parsons does, and kind of like TJ Watt, like that's what, to me, kind of puts a couple of those guys above Max, just because they can close out a game. And Max has done it, you know, a couple times. Yeah, but, you know, I want a guy that can get that strip sack in the fourth quarter and ball game. You know, and not saying that Max is tired or nothing, but, you know, maybe a little bit of breather here and there throughout the game. So once fourth quarter comes, Max is balls to the wall.
He's still good. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, I definitely agree, because, you know, obviously he's also not a spring chicken anymore. Right. He's been in the league for a minute. Right. And he's not going to
coming off an injury.
Yeah. You know, he's not going to be able to go 100%.
Right.
For the rest of the season.
Right.
He needs to start, you know, scaling it down a little bit, allowing other players to kind of give him a break and give them an opportunity, you know, so when the fourth quarter comes, you know, they're still ready to go. Right. You know, and not like gasping for breath, or, you know, not being able to go 100%. as we need to in those times, especially pivotal games.
Right.
You know, where we need that defense to step up and do what they got to do. But yeah, man, so I have nothing else as far as any news, anything that you've heard, Chris, or anything that you would like to talk about that you've heard or that you guys have covered in the war room.
No, man, I think, you know, that's pretty much a lot of it. You know, again, you know, we definitely have a lot of, you know, we definitely go deep. We need to do deep dives at the war room. So, you know, we'll probably, in fact, I wasn't there, what was it, last week, Sunday. Of the times, but they did a film study on Alex Kappa. So we're trying to do film studies on, you know, some of our newer guys that we got this year, just so, you know, some of the fans can kind of understand, you know, what we can expect from these guys. So I think we're going to do Jeremy Chin, you know, here coming up as well, just so we can kind of break down, you know, the good and the bad and the ugly of, you know, what this guy's going to bring to the tables when he's out there. So just to kind of keep the content going, you know, during the dry spell. So, but, you know, everything we talked about today, man, you know, I think we hit it out the park.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. You know, I'm definitely interested in watching more of your guys' breakdown of these players, because obviously a lot of us don't have any clue who these draftees are. You know, we didn't see them play college ball. You know, we don't have an expectation of them. Some free agents, you know, some of them we have seen, you know, playing against the Raiders, or, you know, just highlights on YouTube or whatnot. So, you know, there is definitely some information out there, but it's good to see it from individuals that know the game. You know, and that definitely have their different perspectives on how they see the game and how they see the player and what the benefits or what the hindrance these players are going to bring our team. Well, all right, Chris. Well, being that's all we have for Chris's weekly word this week, let the nation know what you got going, my brother, because even though it's slow, Chris don't stop.
Oh yeah, no, we don't stop, man. We don't stop. So, you know, of course, always just rocking, man. You know, the main thing just focusing on is, you know, doing the show with my brothers, the Raider War Room. So salute to my boys, man, the Severe Raider and, you know, 805 Raiders. So we're just bringing that heat, man. And also me and my brothers from TRS, you know, the Raider Syndicate, you know, we're in the lab right now. We're in the lab getting some stuff cooked up for you guys and entertainment for you guys.
Sorry to interrupt, but I heard that the TRS just grew by one new member.
But yeah, Severe's official TRS, man. Severe's official TRS. So
yes, sir.
And it's such a natural thing, man. Because again, we're all like brothers, man. And Severe is like my brother. You know, I'm closer than these guys than I am, you know, some of my friends that live here in my city, you know, in my state. So, but yeah, those are my brothers. Talk to them all day, and I really think we got a special group, man. Special group. Iron sharpens iron. But yes, salute to my boy Severe, man. He is TRS, and he's been a great addition to the team, man. So that's my guy. So we're fully loaded right now, man. We're ready for war.
That's awesome, man. I can't wait to catch one of you guys' shows all together.
Oh yeah, we've had one. Did you see the last one we did?
All together?
Oh yeah. Well, no, actually, you know what? No, Turf wasn't there because Turf was going through. That's right. Yeah. Actually, you're right because So that's coming, man. It's coming. All Turf, 5 of us.
Turf is definitely a dynamic individual. That, you know, he does bring his flair. Into TRS.
Yeah, he does, and his flair is usually triggering me. So me and him going at it. Nah, but brother, man, that's my brother, man. Love him to death, man. Love him to death.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, it's definitely gonna be fire, and I hope you guys do a lot more things together. You know, because there is a lot of knowledge there. Even though you guys got your own thing, you know, going on the side, you know, your other projects, but you know, TRS definitely needs to come back.
Yeah.
You know, and do something continuously like you guys did before.
Yeah. For sure.
Spicy Raider, I know you guys are taking a hiatus right now until
so we're waiting closer to training camp, so you know you'll probably see us back at it, you know, next month sometime. So you know we'll continue going at it, and again there's a couple other things that, you know, I'm kind of working on. You know, we're just waiting until there's more, you know, more stuff to talk about. But we're definitely gonna be grinding this season, man. Definitely gonna be grinding, putting out content. You know, continue, you know, partnering with you. You know, again, this is one of my favorite shows I do anyway, man. So again, this is like talking to my talking to my West Coast brother, man. So I love this, man.
You are our professor, man.
Yeah.
You're dropping that knowledge, and we definitely appreciate it, man. We definitely appreciate your time, your knowledge, your information, you know, because you definitely, you know, give us what we need to know.
For sure,
you know,
for sure.
There's a lot of information out there that, you know, we grasp, but there's some that we quite don't understand, and, you know, we need somebody like you to help us translate that and, you know, be able to understand the game more, understand our team more, and understand why our team is doing what it's doing.
For sure.
So for that, we definitely appreciate you, my brother.
For sure.
And hopefully, you know, you start your Protect the Shield podcast.
Yeah. Shield Talk. Yep, that's coming.
Again.
You know, I've been talking about it a long time, but I just want to make sure when I'm bringing it back right. You know, with stuff to talk about. Got some new segments I got lined up, and I got some more interviews lined up. That's what I like doing the best anyway.
Yes,
you know, the most. So for sure.
Yes, sir. That's good, man. All right, Raider Nation. Well, as far as myself, of course, you know, every Sunday here with Chris, Protect the Shield, we got the Raider Nation Weekly Wire. Obviously, the next month and a half, it's going to be a little short. We might not be doing an hour, but, you know, we're going to give you as much content as we can, much information, much entertainment for you, you know, so just keep watching. Also, just last week, we dropped the Raider Nation Roll Call. I had the opportunity and the pleasure
that was a fire
to
show.
interview Severe Raider.
Fire show.
It was great. It was great talking with them, you know, getting to know him as an individual, as a Raider fan, not just as a content creator. You know, he knows his stuff, and, you know, he is very grounded. He knows what he wants to do. He has a passion for Raider football and the Raider Nation. You know, salute to you, Severe. Thank you again for giving us of your time. You know, it was a great interview. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. It's right here on my YouTube page. Also, Stogie Nation, we have not this Monday, but the Monday after next, we have a cigar lounge review.
Nice.
Of Blue Flame Cigar Lounge in the city of Torrance. It used to be my old stomping grounds. It's under new ownership. We're going to talk to the ownership. We're going to review the cigar lounge, smoke some cigars, and see why it is that cigar lounge is what it is and why the new proprietor decided to take it over.
Yeah.
So check that out, Raider Nation. If you guys have any topics you guys want us to cover in any of the shows, please let us know. If you guys have any cigars, any lounges, any content creators, anybody, you know, or any news, please drop us a line. We are more than happy to put that content out for you, to answer those questions. If I can't do it, Chris will. If we can't do it, we'll find somebody that can. You know, because that's what we're here to do, is to educate and entertain the Raider Nation. And like I always say, everything we do is for the nation, by the nation. Raider!